Hey guys, Mike Wynn from St. Louis. Been trying to do some reorganizing on things, figure out which direction I'm going here. Basically, I did investigations, law enforcement, security over the last 28 years. So I was making this video, I was following along that Brian Laundrie case, which everybody's been watching and is the total media circus. But also because of the investigator in me, having done that my whole career, I found it intriguing as well. And I made some, things to point out in a case like that I saw happening. And having been involved in a lot of cases like that, was just kind of shaking my head because, first off, the thing I noticed to me stood out was when they were searching the Everglades and all the stuff in Florida, and they had all the law enforcement, swamp vehicles, boats, people doing grid pattern searches and all this stuff. I don't know how many times I've showed up on search scenes like that, and it's like they're putting on this show for the media and for the families. And the minute you show up, you just know from your training and experience that this person is just not out there for whatever reason. And there could be many reasons, but I knew the minute I was watching that something didn't look right, and that the odds of that guy being right there locally, in his area, sometimes it can happen because that person has a support structure there, family or friends, or some help with money, food, or maybe even transportation, or actually being hidden out at a family member's house. But, when there's that level of attention on there, and if he is, in fact, guilty of the murder and on the run, first off, to me, it's not logical he's going to be right there. This is a guy that just drove across the country, first off, and is one of these off-grid survivalist type guys. So having a skill set that is already above average for people when it comes to that, where he's not afraid to live off doors or off the grid, and if he did commit the murder, to me, it's not logical by any stretch that he's going to be in this local wooded area. So when I see searches go on like that for hours, days, weeks, months, and then they finally come to this conclusion, some brilliant, police chief or captain always comes out and says, well, we're calling off the search. To me, it's always seems that they're putting on a show for the media. And they have to act like they're doing something, and the media or somebody starts saying that, hey, maybe we should check this wooded area. The next thing you know, you have amateur detectives. I've seen people bring out pit bulls that didn't know how to search for anything, that were literally pets, and people were literally searching the woods with these dogs, crisscrossing over the paths of law enforcement trained dogs, search and rescue personnel, paramedics, volunteer, or professional search teams, and basically you start to lose all organization of everything that's going on. Next, they have Dog the Bounty Hunter showing up for this thing. My opinion on Dog is that he is total professional and has the background and experience. And in fact, many, I don't think, knew this, but I think he was also in prison, unless I'm wrong, way back, and so also understands the mindset of what it takes, of how a person on the run like that would think, and also what it would take to find this person, the kind of work ethic. He's out, he's finding all these random campsites in Florida on the beaches and turning all this stuff into the FBI. So yes, the FBI, if they're doing their investigation, you have this stuff coming in now. You've got all this leads that coming in from everybody that sees a guy with a shaved head and mustache and beard. They're taking a picture of this guy and sending it in and calling it in as a tip of a sighting. You're going to have hundreds of thousands of calls like that because it is a media frenzy. So now these FBI investigators have to sift through every one of those leads, further distracting them. So you have, the things also where this guy is such a media circus that this guy has basically already been tried, found guilty by the public. No one even knows what this guy's done yet. Or in fact, if he's even killed this Gabby Petito. And so that, when it comes to a criminal trial, has already set the stage for it to be a very unfair trial. There's way too much bias. They keep replaying these videos of him and her having this very dysfunctional relationship and crying on the side of the road and her getting dropped off and the police making them separate. So it seemed like a very dysfunctional couple having a very dysfunctional cross-country road trip. And apparently they also, on top of everything else, had some unnamed mental conditions or mental illness. I don't know if there was some minor thing or if it was something like bipolar or schizophrenic or what all was involved with that, or if they were supposed to be on medications. So it seemed like, but people, I learned, and that's where, as an investigator, you got your training or experience and you learn to take this emotion out of things, and you got to be separate from that. But people, meaning the general public, they often, the first thing someone spits out there on the news or shows on a camera or this or that, they assume everything. They act on total emotion. Only your intelligent people step back and look at, some of the things that are actually usually the case. However, people like to rush to, nuclear war scenario. Oh, he beat her, he murdered her, he's a horrible guy, had all these past history of whatever. And like I said, and usually that's 99.9% emotion. People watch these things, they don't have any of the facts. They weren't there. They've had no training experience in doing investigations often. So no one really knows anything really other than what the news is showing. And then half the time they can't get it right. So, and then they do a lot of guessing and conjecture on what, we think this is what's going on, or the cops are at the house. In fact, the family's home was surrounded by people making threats to them and chanting literally in their front yard. Personally, why the police didn't have that area cordoned off where that they were not being stalked and harassed 24/7, I'm not quite sure. And no, by any means should they have been allowed to basically have the home surrounded the way they did. It's literally putting the family in jeopardy. Now, whether they're lying or hiding them out or whatever, there is still a legal system. And until you're proven guilty, then you're innocent. And in this case, I don't see where, we have no idea. We also have no idea the unknown factors, meaning were there other people, did they get entangled with the wrong crowd? Were other people after them along this road trip, and did they then catch up with and kill Gabby Petito? And is that why Brian Laundrie's on the run? I'm not by any means defending the Brian Laundrie guy, but what I'm trying to impress in this video is you have to look at all these options, and professional investigators do that. The minute you work off the emotion, and again, just go to the most obvious fifth grade theory of, or kindergarten theory of, he just killed her. It just had to be. Usually, and especially in a case like this, where it seems very bizarre, there's usually way more to the story and way more factors going into this than what people are aware of. So there could be other people involved, could be some other bad elements. There was to make things even more confusing in this case, in that Idaho area, that outdoor national park area, wherever it was, they found her. It was either Utah, wherever, doesn't matter. There was someone out there that had just killed a lesbian couple that was hiking out there, and I think at the present date in time, that's also unsolved. So now you throw that into the mix, and it was the same area. Makes it very confusing now, because now the question is also, did this guy just happen to kill Gabby Petito when they separated? So that makes things very confusing. So if there's a serial killer now working in this area, you now have this single girl out there by herself, and God knows what happened there. I do know they found her body. They never really gave any descriptions on of her, cause of death. I don't believe in things like that. But, the other interesting thing was there was a gentleman that called in 911 in the Appalachian Mountains in that Tennessee, North Carolina area. Said he ran into Brian Laundrie in a white truck. And the Brian Laundrie guy said he was basically 100% certain it was him, and that Brian Laundrie was, confused, out of it. He said he was lost, didn't know where he was at. Said he was on his way to California, but was in North Carolina in the middle of the woods. And said he had to get to California because he had an argument with his girlfriend and needed to get back to her. So then I found that very intriguing because, is he driving around and acting like he's, claiming the insanity plea, putting on that big of a show? Highly doubtful. That's a little overboard, behavior. Try to pull that off. That defense works less than 1% of the time anyways. So that's just not going to work. It's not logical. Did he have a mental breakdown after something happened and then literally forgot what happened? Have some type of, psychosis episode, or is he supposed to be on medications and he isn't? All these things could be going on, but I never heard any of this mentioned on the media at all, other than he just killed her. And, he told the guy that he ran into in the Appalachians that he was going to just stay on the highway because he thought it took him to California. And then I read something interesting, a comment on that YouTube thread. Someone was saying that there's actually a city in North Carolina named California. So then the question was, well, was he headed there? But the thing is, we don't know that because he just told that gentleman he was headed to California. So that now adds into confusion. If there is a town near there named California, they should have that area being combed through with law enforcement. And I've heard nothing about that at all. They supposed to send on a couple deputies, made contact with the guy that was not him, let him go. But the gentleman who made that report seemed very credible and very professional and was very certain it was him. And the fact you add all that into the gentleman was also talking about going to California to find his girlfriend, whom he just argued with. It all just seems very bizarre to me. So that's where it just starts deepening, the mystery on this thing. So, you start having all this confusing stuff, confusing leads from numerous states, numerous cities, all that. It's not an easy case for someone to figure out. And so far, even with the FBI, their technology, all the surveillance equipment, they've not found this guy in the woods. The Appalachia area is a vast area, so if he is a survivalist guy, he did head there. He very well could live out there indefinitely. But that is something where, I don't know the guy's skill set on living outdoors, but from seeing him and sizing him up and seeing that seems very avid in the outdoors, I would say that he's, way above average, and maybe he comes across to me as somebody who's a survivor type, so could get by on very little. He's not a very big guy, so if he at all knows how to hunt, fish, bushcrafting, scavenge, purify water, make fires, do all the basics, make a shelter, then he could live indefinitely. If he gets help or runs into someone else that's also in a situation like him, then that would help even further his, survivability. So, but, I found it interesting too that, because I always tend to not follow the crowds on things, and especially things like this. And I noticed when Dog the Bounty Hunter got involved, he was off doing his own thing. And what I've learned is when I went from law enforcement to private investigations, I always found myself investigating that way, because generally where everybody is, the crowd's at, is usually not where you're going to find anything. And again, I don't know why that is. It's very frustrating. And I think it's very humiliating, but people form these giant search parties they go right out to the nearest patch of woods in the backyard, and then they spend weeks there searching. And I've never found anything in that scenario. So, you know, it's got to be checked, sure, but the time they waste checking this area, it just usually never ends up making any sense. So for what comes out of it, you got to expand your mind. And what I compare it to is coming from law enforcement is 2021 now, and I still see police departments parking marked patrol cars at banks to try to deter bank robbers. And I see this every day, even here in St. Louis, and I always laugh because any amateur criminal knows that a police car backed into a bank parking lot that's been there for 6 months is probably fake. So, you know, when you see law enforcement or search parties or investigators or the FBI doing these, you know, amateur hour search patterns in a patch of woods where you know this guy's not at, then, and where it's not logical for him to be at, it makes you scratch your head. So, I covered a lot of the points that I did not see the media bring up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this case, but I think the problem is that, you know, no one has all the facts. The FBI did search his parents' home, and after that, I believe, is when they did issue the warrant for him. So on that note as well, they must have found something they considered incriminating. But then again, the FBI has also, in the past, especially with the Atlanta bomber, the Richard Jewell, that guy was locked up, crucified, found guilty basically of being this abortion clinic bomber, and this guy didn't do anything. So people and agencies can definitely rush into things way too fast and being pressured by the media. And obviously you cannot do that, but it'll be interesting to see, guys. So if you have any questions, leave a comment below.